Nirmala Sitharaman ji for a keynote address. Welcome, ma'am.
Can that light be put off? It's hitting my eye. This. Thank you. Good afternoon and namaskar to everyone who's found time to be here. Dr. Charan Singh, the non-executive chairman of Punjab and Sindh Bank, Shri Swaroop Kumar Saha, the MD and CEO of Punjab and Sindh Bank, my colleague Dr. Karad, Additional Secretary in the Department of Financial Services, Shri Tangirala, executives of the banks and also the IBA, the non-executive directors of the board of this bank, Punjab Sindh Bank, eminent citizens who have all come here for this joyous occasion. I wish to thank you all and thank again the bank's management for giving me this opportunity to be here and to be part of the opening session of the corporate office in this new premises. I will take a minute to speak and recall the wonderful history, troubled it might have been, but wonderful history of this bank, Punjab and Sindh Bank. Before coming here, sitting with the top executives of the bank, I did mention that all Indian banks, particularly the public sector banks, which have come to be part of the public sector, have had a history of having been founded by eminent private citizens, remained a private bank for some time, and then getting nationalized. So all of them do carry a certain sentiment about the bank, and it is absolutely understandable. In that, I was mentioning that the Punjab and Sindh Bank has a certain sentiment which has an enduring value. Why do I say that? I say that because in 1947, the turbulent period post our independence, Punjab and Sindh Bank, as was shown in this beautifully captured video presentation, had just 2 branches left. All others were part of a divided country, and the founding fathers of the bank had to even go take the bank's headquarters to their own private homes because they didn't even have a place to run the bank from. So to found a bank, to run it efficiently and professionally is one thing, but to have your sweat and toil given and go through with the bank through the national history, which was very turbulent at that time, and to be able to now stand up and speak as a successful bank is not simple at all. So when I'm talking about the sentiment of banks which have been founded with certain cultural and distinct regional values, Punjab and Sindh Bank does come with one additional unique feature, that is having gone through the turbulent times of independence. Now at that time, I said there were only 2 branches. Subsequently in 1980, when it was nationalized, it had about 537 branches. But why do I recall the number of branches now? It is only because the current position of Punjab and Sindh Bank in terms of having 1,553 branches, and the 54th is being opened today at Karimganj in Assam, bordering district of Bangladesh. India, Karimganj district in Assam borders with Bangladesh, and that is where the 1554th branch of Punjab and Sindh Bank has gone. Now, it says so much for a bank which was so identified and so associated and so uniquely placed with the state of Punjab. It is now spread all over the country and even has gone into the northeast. In fact, I observe that not one state of the northeast, the Ashtalakshmis as we call them, is ignored by Punjab and Sindh Bank. You're present in every one of these northeastern states. And this branch in Karimganj has its own story to say, in that you have come as a result of partition with just two branches, from one border of the country to the other international border, which is the border with Bangladesh. It is such a reflective of, such a story reflective of the kind of history Punjab and Sindh Bank carries, and you've really made a success story of the bank in spite of all the turbulent periods. So I appreciate the management, the directors, and also the entire board of the bank for having really pulled the bank through troubled times. And as was said by Dr. Charan Singh, even in the recent past, the challenges were not simple. And Punjab and Sindh Bank, thankfully, because of the professional excellence with which they operate today, has come out of it and has performed very well. And I'm really putting on record my word of appreciation to the entire bank's board and management for this performance. I take this opportunity to recall how in 2014, when we took charge of the economy, the twin balance sheet problem had really hurt the economy of the country. And when we say twin balance sheet, we are talking about the bank's balance sheet and the balance sheet of the corporate or the small and medium businesses, the companies, who largely are your customers when they take money from you, when they take credit from you. And the people, the small deposit holders who are with you, all of them depend on the bank's balance sheet. Now, when the balance sheet is troubled, and if all banks' balance sheets are equally in trouble, the economy also suffers. The company's balance sheet, their trouble, gets reflected into the bank's balance sheet, they get into trouble, and as a result, the national economy suffers. In 2014, really, the country for the first time heard of this problem of twin balance sheet problem. But 2 days ago, I was happy to see that the Reserve Bank of India, in its financial stability report, has used this expression for defining and describing the situation today. They have said, today we have a twin balance sheet advantage, as a result of which the banks are making good profit, their net worth is risen, they're able to go to the market and raise resources for them, not just depend on the largies continuously from the government, and they're expanding their business in that they're spreading more ATMs, bringing more bank correspondents everywhere, and where necessary, also opening up brick and mortar branches like in Karimganj today. Now, how did this come about? From a twin balance sheet problem situation to a twin balance sheet advantage situation. As soon as in 2014 the government was formed under the Hon'ble Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the problem was recognized that banks are going through a crisis. And that is why a 4R formula was formed. The 4 R's being recognize that there is a problem, recapitalize the banks, reform the banks, and after having recognized it, resolve the problem, resolution. So, recognition, resolution, recapitalization, and reform. Those 4 R's are the ones which stood by us between 14 and today, that every bank which went through these corrective action have come out of it, and as a result today are able to post profit. And when they post profit, the other parameters are also studied to see if the credit outgo is healthy. Are they coming up with good provisioning where it is not healthy or adequate? Is it being improved? And so on. So now we find all the banks doing very well, about which there was a mention earlier. Together with the 4 Rs, Government of India came up with other things which equally helped the banks. I quickly recall them. The IBC, the Insolvency, Banking and Bankruptcy Code, which was introduced in 2016, has helped in speedily recovering values and making sure most of the companies which had fallen sick are not shut down but as kept as going concerns, and value has been realized. Where it was inevitable, bankruptcy aspects have also been worked out. So, one, you had the 4 Rs. Two, you came up with the IBC 2016, with which banks were able to quickly realize their worth, the money's worth from those bad assets. And then, if this is all being done for the bank's welfare and also for those who have taken credit from the bank, the customers who have put deposit in the bank had also to be protected. Their money is sitting there, they have invested, they have put as deposit, they are earning small amounts as interest. But if the bank's performance was going down the drain, they are the first ones to get hurt. For them, the deposit insurance cover which was provided earlier, which was once upon a time 50,000 rupees, then it was increased to 1 lakh. After Prime Minister Modi came, it was increased to 5 lakhs of rupees. So, if we were trying to redress the issues of credit and the credit outgo and also the bank's health through the 4 Rs, IBC to realize value, the depositor was being given the assurance that he will not suffer up to 5 lakhs, he will get the money guaranteed by the government. So that was the third measure that we took. And the fourth measure is, if in case an NPA and also a bad asset, to realize the maximum value from that asset, an NARCL was formed. An asset reconstruction company was formed, through which these assets, which were particularly over 500 crores, were moved to these companies. They would reconstruct them and see if they can be better bidders in the market who would come buy them, and when they buy, the amount would be given back to the banks which are due to them. So, a comprehensive approach in making sure the Indian banking sector improves its performance, comes out of the difficulty which came in because of irrational phone banking which happened in the previous tenure of the government, previous tenure of earlier government, where not so worthy customers were given priority, in lending, professionally not assessed, and as a result of them, sooner all of them became sick or they became non-functioning. Now, therefore, today, after all these measures, I'd just like to highlight the net profits of the public sector banks. I was happy to hear that mentioned, but I repeat it. The net profit of the public sector banks have almost tripled, and today they are 1.04 lakh crores. That is the total profit of all the public sector banks. All right. There are other indicators through which the health of the bank is assessed. The return on assets in public sector banks has risen from 0.51% to 0.78% today. And as a result, you have better return on assets that the banks hold. The net interest margin has also gone up. It was 2.73% earlier. Now it's about 3.23%, 3.23% now in 2023. I was speaking about the provisioning which banks are doing. The provisioning coverage ratio has increased from where it was in 2014, just at 58.48%. Today, I hope you'll be able to guess this number. Today, the net provisioning coverage ratio, has gone up to 90.72%. So you've covered yourself to 90.72%, and this is just not simply happening by itself. There's been such concerted effort of every bank's board to make sure that they come up with better coverage ratio. And as a result, today, I'm glad to say the problems of twin balance sheet has gone away. Like the Reserve Bank observed, it is twin balance sheet advantage that the Indian economy is benefiting from. Similarly, this is a very important indicator which I like to highlight to you all. The banks totally, and this is CRISIL which has said it, it's not me who's saying it. CRISIL, the rating agency, tells us that banks' gross non-performing assets, gross NPAs, will reduce further to a decadal low of 3.8% by the end of 23-24. So CRISIL itself is recognizing that India's NPAs will be reaching the lowest level in 23-24, that is this year, and that will be at 3.8%. Now, furthermore, so it's not just in the last few years we've done well, we shall be doing well this year also, is what the CRISIL tells us. One more thing which is worth reading out, and I quote from Economist, the magazine, which is not known for being India favorite, or they don't treat India with a soft kid glove. They normally are very highly critical of things which happen in India. And as regards India's banks, in March 2023, their observation is worth hearing, and I read here. India's once troubled banks are generating huge profits. The Economist is saying, I'm not saying it. India's once troubled banks are generating huge profits. Similarly, unquote, Standard & Poor, S&P, the other rating agency which comes up with periodic observation on the Indian economy, has said India's banking industry country risk assessment. In that report, they have said, that is where they have said, we raised the rating for India, and as a result, they have raised it to 5 from 6. So the rating has improved as a result of the performance of banks. Now, it is worth here for a moment for all of us to recall what is happening in the globe, all over the world. While India's banking story is this, what is happening around the world? All of you all heard in March 2023, Silicon Valley Bank, which was one of those very sought after bank where all the startups would go in the Silicon Valley to get themselves serviced. Banking services will be provided by Silicon Valley Bank. The collapse, which really shook the world. And from there, very quickly after Silicon Valley Bank, we heard about Switzerland's Credit Suisse. The way, again, a very old bank, Credit Suisse is a very old bank. For them to have really reached a stage where they had to be acquired by the UBS. They couldn't survive any longer. So UBS came and acquired them. So it's interesting here that despite a stable rating outlook all these banks had, in spite of the stable ratings, they collapse, they come into such a situation of fragility that they had to be taken over by somebody else. Against this picture, which is prevailing all over the globe, you now heard about how India's banks are performing, and it is purely because of the professionalism with which our managements are running the bank, and I credit each one of them, each one of our banks, public sector banks, and also those who are, some of them are doing very well in the private sector as well. So the bank's management in India, even during troubled times like this, have been extremely cautious. And credit rating agencies are also in a position to vouch for the performance of our banks. So without taking more of your time, I just want to highlight that we cannot afford to sit back and revel on our success. It is good to have motivation taken from our successes, but we shouldn't sit back, and we shouldn't look the other way from efficiency. So I would say banks should follow best corporate governance principles. They should adhere to regulatory norms. They should also ensure prudent liquidity management, and they should continue to focus on robust asset liability and also the risk management elements. And only then can we build on the laurels that all of us can speak about today, forgetting what we were 10 years ago. But today we've reached this stage. But at this stage, it is our duty towards the people of India to ensure that the banks can build on the strength and not lose this momentum that we have achieved. So I think the way forward should be to ensure that the youth of this country get your support. You are able to reach out to them to ensure that the stand-up and start-up revolution which is happening in this country is supported by you. You should also ensure that there are credit outreach programs like the one by going into Northeast, you're opening up branches. That credit outreach through your banks is a very important step. The government's policy is to support banking to reach the vibrant villages of the international borders. We need to be present there, which is what you've done in Karimganj. Furthermore, give the emphasis for Mahila. Mahila, the government of India in the budget had announced that there is Mahila Bachat Patra, which we will be issuing. The post office payment banks have started doing it. The banks, scheduled commercial banks, are doing it now. I honestly request and wish you that you approach more women to come and take the Bachat Patra so that you also get more money into your banks and you're able to support with good assured returns for the women. One very humble request would be ensure that the priority sector lending happens. Government's program it is through the banks to reach out to the certain areas which are priority sector areas, and in that particularly I would appeal to the management of Punjab and Sindh Bank that you should do the maximum in the target that is given to you and not please give the money back where you couldn't utilize it to the RIDF. You should reach it yourself in the areas where you are present and not claim that you couldn't do it and give it to RIDF. And similarly, account aggregator, the Open Credit Enablement Framework, the OCEN, are all things which are coming in to help you to be efficient in reaching your customers. Ensure that you're using them optimally. And lastly, in this age where digital economy, your systems are all digitized, Your records are all digitized. Use artificial intelligence to the maximum so that efficiency increases. But a word of caution, please make sure every now and then there are drills for digital safety. You should have enough and adequate firewalls around the systems that you have. So, without taking more time, I once again appreciate the Punjab and Sindh Bank for all the efforts that you have taken. I keep continuing the good work, and I wish you several and several decades and centuries more of good work for the people of India. Thank you very much.